Hey everyone, Josh Merhar here, and today I'm going to show you how to make any odd time signature feel like 4/4. We're basically going to mess around with placement of the backbeat to completely disguise the fact that we're playing in an odd meter. If we can give listeners a solid sense of the quarter note and some kind of backbeat for their ear to latch onto, they'll have no idea they're bobbing their head to time signatures that aren't 4. It's really easy to make odd meters sound mechanical. Most drummers start learning odd meters with 7/8 by taking a 4/4 rock groove and just cutting off that last eighth note. While that's definitely an odd time signature and a fine place to start, it's pretty academic and unimaginative. But if we superimpose smaller groupings of 7 against the quarter note, it gives the effect that the smaller groups kind of wrap around the beat. We're going to explore how rhythms can behave like fractal patterns. This technique is used a lot in groove metal, for example, so bands like Meshuggah or Animals as Leaders, and it appears in some other progressive styles of music as well. So we're going to start with a rhythm that takes the space of 5/16 notes. I'm going to refer to this as the small 5. For the examples in this video, we'll only hit on the 1 and 3 of each small 5. To start getting the feel for how the small 5 relates to a quarter note, we're going to start by playing eighth notes on the hi-hat and the small 5 pattern on the kick. 2 repetitions of the small 5 will fit evenly in the space of 5/8 notes. Now try playing the small 5 on the kick, but just a quarter note on the hi-hats. Now it'll take 4 repetitions of the small 5 to fit evenly in the space of 5 quarter notes. It's very easy to get lost in the middle of this, so I definitely recommend going slowly, counting out loud, and using a metronome to keep yourself on track. Now we're going to add a backbeat relative to the quarter note. It's going to give everything kind of a 4/4 feel, but we're not actually playing in 4. We're playing in 5. So the snare is going to land on beats 2 and 4 in the first measure, but the backbeat flips in the second measure, landing on beats 1, 3, and 5. It takes 5 backbeats spaced over 2 measures for the pattern to line up again on beat 1. I'll hit a crash each time everything comes around. Now to really bring this up to another level, I'm going to switch the backbeat so it's relative to the small 5 instead of the quarter note. So the snare lands on the first count of every other small 5. Relative to the quarter note, that'll be the E of beat 2 and the of beat 4. Since 4 repetitions of the small 5 fit evenly in the space of 5 quarter notes, this pattern only takes 1 measure to resolve. Let's apply the same idea to a grouping of 7/16 notes. We'll hit on just the 1, 3, and 5 of each grouping, and this will be my small 7. Same thing as before, we'll start by playing the small 7 on the kick underneath straight eighths on the hi-hats. So 2 repetitions of the small 7 fit evenly in the space of 7/8 notes. And now we'll play the small 7 on the kick underneath just a quarter note on the hi-hats. 4 repetitions of the small 7 fit evenly in the space of 7 quarter notes. Again, go slowly, count out loud, and use a metronome to keep yourself on track. Now we'll get the backbeat relative to the quarter note into the mix. Remember, since we're in an odd meter, the backbeat kind of flips every other measure. So in the first measure, the backbeat will land on beats 2, 4, and 6, and in the second measure, it'll be 1, 3, 5, and 7. So it'll take 2 full measures of 7 for everything to line up again on beat 1. And now I'm going to switch the backbeat so it's relative to the small 7 instead of the quarter note. Now everything will resolve after just 1 measure of 7. The snare will land on the first hit of the second and fourth small 7 in the pattern, otherwise known as the of beat 2 and the E of beat 6. Just for fun, I'm going to run a grouping of 11 16th notes through the same process. I'm thinking of the 11 as 7 plus 4, so I'm going to use the same small 7 we just worked with, and then I'm going to add 2 eighth notes to the end of that. I'm going to skip the first step and just start by playing the 11 on the kick underneath quarter notes on the hi-hats. So it'll take 4 repetitions of the small 11 to fit evenly in the space of 11 quarter notes. And now I'll add the backbeat relative to the quarter note. So it's going to take 2 full measures of 11/4 for everything to come back around on beat 1 again. That's a lot of space. And now I'm going to change up the backbeat so it's relative to the 11 instead of the quarter note. But this one's going to function a little differently from the 5s and 7s. The snare is going to land on counts 5 and 10 of the small 11. But since we're thinking of the 11 as 7 plus 4, the snare is going to land on the third hit of the small 7 and the first hit of the small 4. You'll hear how this works relative to the beat. So that's about it. You could use this process to work out some really cool grooves and patterns in literally any time signature. It's a very flexible process. By superimposing small groupings against a quarter note, you can completely disguise the fact you're playing in an odd time signature. You just gotta give people something to nod their head to, and fill out some of those 16th note gaps to come up with really, really wild possibilities. I have transcriptions of all of these demonstrations on my Patreon page. If you like what you saw in this video, consider checking it out. Your support grants you access to transcriptions for this video, as well as all of my other lesson videos. As always, thank you for watching and see you next time.